So it's a marginal afternoon right now. I'm not really sure if I'm going to have enough power, and that's kind of the point of the session right now. Marginally underpowered on whatever your kit you're on. It doesn't matter if you're on a big 7.6 sail and 122 litre freeride kit like I'm on here, or if you're out there on something a bit smaller and you're a bit underpowered, a bit marginal. Techniques and tricks I'm going to go through just now should help you get planing easier, get back into the foot straps a little bit easier. So actually it works at different levels. Helps you get into the foot straps if you're struggling to get in them already, but also if you're marginally underpowered and are looking for that little bit more. So before I get to the tricks and techniques of getting going when you're a bit underpowered, I should say thank you very much for joining me on this channel, clicking subscribe and sticking with me through this and hopefully some other videos that you've seen, all of which are filmed with me riding along like I am just now with a few different cameras around the place and hopefully clear enough audio that you're not just muffled in a waterproof bag. You can actually hear what I'm talking through, and at the same time as me talking through it, you can see what's going on and the changes and the decisions I'm making along the way. And that's a good place to start with, I think, the changes and the decisions. Because it's marginally windy right now, I'm sailing upwind. Everything begins going upwind. Look where the wind's coming from and decide if there's enough wind to give it a go, or actually there's not enough wind, we'll use what we've got to head up in it. A lot of the time people get knackered trying to get planing, trying to get into the foot straps and get the board to go faster, when actually there's just not enough wind and not enough power in your sail to do it. So rather than fighting all the time, we've got to select our gust. Maybe this one will be enough. Not quite. And we'll head back up in it. So look to the wind, that's where you're trying to get to most of the time windsurfing. Spot the gust and choose the right gust to then start to bear away in. In previous videos, I've discussed and explained what the term bear away means. Bearing away doesn't necessarily mean straight down to a broad reach. It may not even mean heading downwind. Bear away simply means turning a little bit further away from the wind than where you currently are, which is all I'm doing here. I'm turning across the wind. I think that's an important distinction to make because I don't just want to be losing more and more ground trying to get planing every time. I can test the wind just bearing away a little bit to roughly across the wind over here, and I'll know from that, oh, it's not quite enough. I'll sheet out, I'll head back upwind again and wait for the next gust. Tactics before technique. It's not happening on this side. Let's turn around and try the other side. So I've been patiently waiting for a while now, and it looks like it's filling in a little bit. I've got a little bit more power coming towards me. So when I decide it's time to get the board going, I'm going to bear away off the wind and actually probably ever so slightly downwind, which I don't mind doing today because I've gained so much ground while I've just been waiting and waiting patiently for this wind. So usually I wouldn't say go downwind to get planing. I'd say bear away until you're roughly across the wind. Common misconception, you have to go downwind to get planing. So I'm going to bear away a little bit more than normal. I'm going to drive through my front foot whilst allowing the rig to come back towards me and down through my harness. It's like I'm trying to commit as much of my weight as I can into the harness and through the toes of my front foot so I can drive the board onto the plane. A quick step into the front foot strap, and fairly quickly now, while I've got some power and speed, I want to be heading back upwind, remaining sheeted in at the same time. Backhand is pulling at the same time as my front hand pushing, because I'm so committed to the harness, it's helping to keep the board flat and drive it forwards. You can see the sails fully sheeted in, keeping that power on. You can also just about see, I think, my back foot has not yet gone into the strap. I don't need to, it's marginal. If I stand in the back foot strap, I'm going to upset the trim of the board and slow me down quite quickly. At the same time as looking for this wind, I'm also looking for flattish, or more importantly in this light wind, can I use a little bit of a wave to push down and get planing on the back of that wave? It's definitely not choppy wave sailing conditions, but there's always that little bit of swell. And if I can push down the wave, that might make the difference and just give me that little bit more power to accelerate the board and drive it onto the plane. You'll also notice my body is a lot straighter than it would be in windier conditions. Straight and stiff is efficient. My legs are locked out straight. My stomach muscles are tensed. As much as I can, my movements are small and subtle, just to make sure I'm making the most of every little breath of wind I can get. I'm really only just about on the plane here. It's the end of the sailing area there, let's turn it around. You can see in that direction the trail of bubbles is taking me upwind again. In these lighter winds, I'm tacking a lot more than I'm jibing. To go back a stage, it's basically because every time I need that bit of power, I have to bear away that little bit more and go downwind. So it's a balancing act between how far downwind do I need to go to get the board planing and lose the ground, and then back in the marginal wind once again. Now there's not enough power, I'm regaining that ground that I lost, making sure I'm not just one of those windsurfers that's permanently the most downwind person, the last place I want to be. Those tips again then. Looking for the wind, here comes a bit of wind. I'm going to keep the board flat by pushing through my front toes, keeping the rig away from me and committing to the harness while the rig comes back and down. There's no rush to get into that front foot strap. Let the board speed up first. And there's even less rush to get into the back foot strap, which I haven't touched yet, because I'm so marginal. I'm only just powered up here. I'm fairly tense through my whole body, keeping my body straight so that I can bring that board upwind a bit more. I'm actually holding my ground fairly well just now. I'm not really going upwind much, just a couple of degrees above the wind direction. Still searching for that wind. I need to know what's going on. There's the gust. Here comes a little gust. I can use that to flex my front leg, bring the body weight forwards a bit more, and this is bringing me upwind even more now. Now I'm definitely gaining some ground. Or if I like to, this gust is quite nice. Actually, why not use this extra little gust to head into a jibe? To refer back to a previous video on those jibes, vision and counterbalance will keep me dry. Trim and power will make me fast. I haven't got any power going into that jibe. There's pretty little chance of me coming out with much speed. Here we go again. I'm not yet in the front foot strap. Now I am. I'm giving it a bit more of a push to get onto the plane. And it's not quite enough. Now I'll play through the pumping action I'm using just there. And what I hope you'll notice is it's not just the back arm working really, really hard in and out with the sail, but to commit to the harness that's allowing the sail to be pumped that extra little bit. My arms are actually staying fairly straight, and I'm pushing the rig forwards towards the wind as I power up. Probably got enough here for the back strap. I'm steering upwind, that's how you get into the back strap. Back to basics, upwind, weight on my front leg. because my weight's on my front leg anyway, I can step into the back one without just stalling the board. Although it's very marginal, there's that pumping little action once again. See its extended arms. It's almost like I'm supposed to do a 1-inch punch on my shoulders. I also have noticed just there, stepped down to the back strap. It just wasn't quite enough to hold me there. It didn't need to be in the foot strap. It was slowing me down. I think on that last run, didn't quite hold my ground. I was working so hard to keep the board going, I lost a bit of ground. I think the other reason actually I lost a bit of ground, and this is an interesting one, depending on where you're sailing. On port tack here, I'm going straight out to sea. There's no benchmark of where I'm aiming for, where I begun. I'm purely relying on the wind and the feeling to work out where I can go and what power I've got. On the way back in here, I'm aiming back towards the centre that I launched from. So right now, I know that if I hold the grind I'm on, up this way, towards the wind a bit more, I'm well upwind of where I started. Not just from looking and hearing and feeling the wind, but seeing it too, and seeing my goal points on the beach. Without a clear goal point, pros and cons, you have to feel the wind, you have to work with what you've got. But that could mean that you accidentally go further downwind than you mean to. Quite a common thing when I'm teaching students is, without a goal point, we're not really sure and we haven't got the wind awareness necessarily to be able to realise I've gone miles further downwind than I needed to be. You could think, it's a turtle. I don't think you can see that, can you? I digress. You could think of taking this back to the beginners. As a complete beginner, from a secure position, standing with two hands on the mast, waiting, first thing we ask them to do is check where the wind is, pick a goal point, across the wind, that's where you're going to aim to sail towards. Without a goal point, pretty tough. Exactly the same for us. Here we go. Gentle little pump, committing to the harness, bringing the sail back and down, whilst pushing the power through the harness and through the front feet. Just about got me going. Keeping the board as flat as I can through that front foot. Keeping the power on through both hands working together. You'll notice they're a very narrow hand spread, meaning less energy for me. Definitely looking for the gust, which is filling in a little bit now. It's allowing me to track a little bit more upwind. A very stiffened, straight body. Keeps me efficient. Stiff as a board, light as a feather. But still no back foot. There's no rush to get that back foot into the foot strap. As soon as I do, I'm going to stall and slow down. Just about managed to get back to the centre where I started from. Crank in attack. So there we have it, a couple of light wind tips, getting planing in marginal conditions, involving looking for the wind and selecting your gust, keeping the board flat, and how we keep the power on through a nice straight stance, probably not using our back foot. Seems to be dropping off once again here, so it's probably a good time to leave you guys. Thank you as always for joining me. Thank you for clicking subscribe and like on these videos, and stay tuned for more coming. Hopefully in some stronger wind. However, going back points I've made all the time, whatever the wind, go out and practice something. Even in this wind, we could just practice some harnessing work or some foot positions and whee, there's a wave, and dozens of other things that are already featured on this channel. So get on the water and have a bit of fun. It doesn't have to be pumping storms going on. It can be whatever conditions you've got on the day. So thank you very much. See you next time.